We will cover a popular use case of crypto, that is communicating over an insecure channel. We will then formally define a crypto system and its parameters. Finally, we will look at Kirchhoff's principle, one of the basic principles of modern cryptography. Cryptography has a large number of applications which we will get into later in the course. But for now, we consider a simple problem, mainly communication over an insecure channel. Consider two parties, Alice and Bob, who want to communicate like sending an email. The problem is that we don't know what is in between, as it is an open channel. As opposed to point-to-point links in the old days, modern channels or transmission media such as the internet, GSM airways, and Wi-Fi tend to be open. Alice sends a message X that might be an email. Bob receives X. The problem is that there might be an opponent, often called Oscar, in the middle. And Oscar may also get access to X. Routing of email all over the internet due to email proxies is very common. To prevent such a scenario, Alice may use some other kind of channel, like a personal delivery of the message with the help of a courier. That may have scalability issues though. Another solution is that you introduce encryption on the sender side. What is encryption? Some kind of mathematical formula that takes as input the plain text X so that a ciphertext Y pops out. Oscar suddenly doesn't see X anymore, but instead sees Y. The good thing about cryptography is that to Oscar this seems like some random bits, and in the case of email encryption he just sees some random characters. On the receiving side, what comes out of the airways is Y, which is decrypted by Bob to readable text X. The $1 million question now is that we have an encryption-decryption function. Is it a good idea to keep those functions secret, or should we make that public? One may think that the second option seems absurd. If the public knows about the function, then Oscar knows about it too, and he can decrypt the message just as easily as Bob. So perhaps we should keep it secret. In the lengthy 4,000 years history of crypto, which dates back to thousands of years before Christ, mankind has been making this mistake time and time again. It is very counterintuitive, but the history of cryptography has shown that systems that tried to hide these crypto functions failed to do a good job of hiding their secrets. This includes the ancient Egyptians, who used specially encrypted hieroglyphs to hide their treasures, and the more recent Nazi Germany, who were convinced that they were using really secure cryptography during the war. But in reality, the Tomb Raiders and allies were doing a really good job of breaking into these systems. So why should we make these systems public, publish our algorithms in scientific papers, and put the algorithms up on our website? Because that is the only way to have real crypto analysts test them out and make sure that the functions are secure. In short, you should never use an untrusted crypto algorithm because it is really easy to build bad home-cooked crypto. Instead, we should rely on using only standardized algorithms. If the algorithm was the only thing to a crypto system, then this would be a major problem, since E and D here are public. Nothing prevents Oscar from plugging in the decryption algorithm to the channel, and Oscar would be able to read all the messages. So what is missing in this drawing? There is another input to this encryption function which we call the key. So the encryption not only depends on the plain text message X, but also on this key. This key becomes really important on the receiver side, namely Bob can only run the decryption if he has the identical key. Another thing the two parties have to do before they can set up the system is to share the key. Sending the key over an insecure channel is a really bad idea because Oscar would be able to get the key. We need another way of exchanging the key using a secure channel, for example, using postal mail, a telephone line, or doing it in person. While these techniques are obviously very inefficient, we will talk at length about secure key distribution protocols a little later in this course. Let us start by formally defining what is a cryptosystem. We say that a cryptosystem is a 5-tuple where M is the set of plaintexts, K is the set of keys, C is the set of ciphertexts, E is a set of encryption functions that take as argument the plaintext M and the key, and out pops the ciphertext. And we have D, which is a set of decryption functions that take the ciphertext, the key, and out pops our plaintext M. Notice here that our set of keys will be the same between the encryption and the decryption function. So we are talking about symmetric or private key systems. Later on, we will talk about public-private asymmetric key algorithms. Another thing that is worth noting is K within these double pipe symbols, which is basically the key space. This is all the sets of values that our key can take. This parameter is important because it determines how many keys there are in total. This will become important later on to determine the strength of the cipher. Kirchhoff, a Dutch cryptographer in 1883, postulated a very fundamental principle changing the rules of the game that cryptographers had been following for 4,000 years by saying that a crypto system should be secure even if the attacker, Oscar, knows all the details about the system with the exception of the secret key. Kirchhoff's principle is counterintuitive, which means this is not the normal way of thinking. Folks would tend to think, let us keep the encryption and decryption functions secret. The problem now is that once the attacker gets a hold of E and D, which is very common nowadays in all the public applications out there, the whole system gets broken. We really need to use Kirchhoff's principles in the modern era. In conclusion, the use of cryptography for securing communication messages is extremely useful in the cyberspace these days. However, to ensure secrecy, you need to take into consideration the key space and the key distribution parameters and not rely on obscurity of the algorithm in the hope that no one will discover it.